Alright, so I watched a TV series recently called Yes, Minister, the original one. It is a bit strange to admit, but I have enjoyed it. And I didn't just enjoy it, I believe it is one of the best comedies out there. Surprisingly timeless and smart when it comes to both the jokes and the actual political satire. Not I know much about British politics, of course, but from the time I've spent talking to people who actually do know, it seems fairly accurate. In any case, I recommend it glowingly and struggle to compare it to much of really anything. What is it about? The British politics are a difficult task for any minister to undertake. Of course, after all, the future of the civilization as we know it is at stake, and only the best of the best are elected. However, they are not alone in undertaking such an arduous task. Indeed, the civil servants are there, at their beck and call, ready to assist in any way they can. Or do completely the opposite, forcing bureaucracy at every step, misdirecting and offering genuine political bribery, all the while sipping champagne and laughing at the lower class begging for the much-needed funding, and acting entirely confused with their reaction. It's a difficult series to describe because on paper it's so basic. It's about a minister and his two servants, yet it doesn't exactly sound like a life riot, so just bear with me here. What did I enjoy? The main trio, of course. They are just... what do I even compare them to? I suppose Three Stooges. Only instead of slapstick they tell each other bold-faced lies and act as if the most ridiculous proposals are absolutely the norm. At one point, for example, there is a discussion about the funding for a recently constructed hospital. The hospital in question has no medical staff. However, the work of the hospital still has to go on. The civil servants are there doing their due diligence and are in fact seriously overworked. Meanwhile, anyone sensible would look at it and say the same thing that Jim would. The hospital is there for healing the sick, yet they are sitting there doing God knows what. Of course, that then leads to ministers stepping in and cutting the funding, forcing the staff of every hospital to go on strike. Of course, there is also another issue, but it'd just be rehashing the events of the episode, and I'd rather not go into it. This perfectly describes their dynamic. The minister, like anyone would, wants to fix the issue. Humphrey preserves the status quo and does absolutely everything in his power to step behind the minister's back and pull every single string to make sure no change actually occurs. Bernard, meanwhile, sits behind them, or between them, as if watching a tennis match and hopes not to make any ripples as he shuffles papers between the two. It's truly baffling to me that this kind of situation leads itself to such brilliant comedy. I hate politics, I can't even look at any kind of political news without getting livid. Yet, I watched and rewatched this show countless times, almost seeing it with nostalgia, despite not even watching it until very, very recently. It's a comfort food for me at this point. I see these three buffoons arguing with each other and feel at home. There are also other characters, of course. Sir Desmond Glazebrook probably stands out the most, an utter windbag of a man entirely incapable of speaking without a confused metaphor punctuating every other sentence. Some others come in and go in for an episode or two, but the important bit is that this is about a main trio, and they are done very, very well. I would also like to praise Sir Humphrey's eloquence. It makes me envy the sheer grasp of language in an ability to stutter or misspeak. The speeches, these ridiculous wordy behemoths, meaning nothing whatsoever, doing little other than confuse everyone, himself included. I feel like it should be a special kind of joke. There ought to be a name for it, saying something simple, something that could be said in a sentence or perhaps even a few words. And instead using an entire paragraph, digging deep through the dictionary, consulting the mental thesaurus, and using every single way one would stretch and obscure the language, all the while hiding an insult or two about the party one is speaking to. It is truly a thing of beauty. As far as the rest of the positives and negatives go, I do not have a clue as to what I can point out exactly. There are issues individual episodes bring up, which could relate even to the events nowadays. The cascading crescendo of politics and indifference rings so damn true nowadays. Great example being, yes, Prime Minister episode about the Foreign Office. There's little talk about the modus operandi, whatever it is, when it comes to foreign politics in a politically unstable country. A coup is underway, with communists threatening to take over. The minister and Bernard in turn look to change it, assist, possibly prevent the coup. Humphrey, of course, offers absolutely no assistance and gives a few comforting lies, but during a private discussion openly admits that nothing will be done. The four-stage strategy. In stage 1, the Foreign Office claims to the minister that nothing is going to happen. In stage 2, something is going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage 3 there is something that we should do about it, but there's nothing we can do. In stage 4 there's something we could have done, but it's too late now. This is a perfect mirror of events in 2014 and in February 2022 in Eastern Europe, and honestly, it's still ongoing. The absurdity of how incompetent and complacent the entire institution is, how government and governing is a machine rotten to the core. It's silly to the point of comedy, and it's nothing but laughable. So laugh, people. Laugh while they still can.